You ever watch something and it feels like a train wreck you just can't look away from? It's messy, chaotic, and you're not sure who, if anyone, comes out on top. That's exactly what went down when Andrew Tate sat with Piers Morgan to discuss the UK riots. If you've been paying attention to the news, then you already know just how tense things have gotten over in the UK. This isn't about one isolated incident. This is a much deeper issue that has been simmering for years. And it all came to a head when these two titans of controversy clashed on Piers Morgan uncensored. But what really went down? And more importantly, what does this mean for us? Let's get into this toxic and pointless entanglement, break down what happened, and see if we can make sense of the chaos, how we got here. Before we get into that, let me lay out the land for you. The UK is currently going through some very violent race-rioted upheavals, all fueled by misinformation spread online. A huge far-right influencer, Andrew Tate, put a lot into this. He made a post claiming that the man who killed 3 children in Southport was an illegal migrant. This wasn't a small mistake or even an exaggeration. This was an outright lie at a very, very bad time. As riots grew, so did violence and so did hate crimes because people were scared, sad and angry, but mostly looking for someone to blame, and Tate, maybe not even on purpose, gave them some direction. Now Piers Morgan walks in. One may love or hate him, but it cannot be ignored that Morgan really knows how to stir controversies. He has made himself out there by challenging controversial public figures and asking those questions, which many people fear to ask. But something felt different this time around with him. It seemed not all about scoring the perfect punchline for tomorrow's tabloids or getting that viral clip online. The stakes appeared higher this time. Hence, when Morgan extended the invitation to Tate to appear on his show, it was not just another interview. It was a showdown, a contest of wills between two men accustomed to having things done in their own way. Morgan wanted to have Tate held responsible for the misinformation and have him admit to the harm he had caused. Tate had different ideas. Well, so be it. Morgan versus Tate. From the very first moment, you can sense the tension. Morgan has publicly accused Tate of spreading false racism and inciting the violence that has divided Britain. He is relentless in his accusations of Tate's role in the chaos and demands answers. But Tate has no intention of backing down. At every opportunity, he has evaded, deflected, and brought the conversation back to Morgan. When Morgan approached him with the wrong information, Tate brushed him off, saying that while he might be wrong about the details, he was talking about the bigger picture. In his view, the strike was not just an accident, but the result of a deeper problem. The sense of insecurity and neglect that many British citizens had experienced throughout the year. This is where things get interesting. Tate believes that the real problem is not just immigration or the particular conditions that lead to violence. It's about how people feel uninfluenced by the political party, how they believe their voices aren't being heard, and how frustration can lead to violence. He argued that the protests were just a symptom of a larger disease, a society torn apart by mass immigration, cultural change, and a lack of good leadership. He tried to bring the conversation back to reality to get Tate to acknowledge that his misinformation had real, dire consequences. But Tate doesn't like to play. Instead, he emphasizes that the political party has failed the people, and that is why violence exists. You could see the frustration on Morgan's face as he realized that Tate wasn't going to give him the soundbite he wanted. Tate wasn't going to apologize, he wasn't going to admit he was wrong. And in a way, that's what made this interview so compelling and so frustrating. It wasn't a victory for either side. It was just a messy, toxic exchange that left everyone feeling more divided than before. The real issues. Let's take a step back and look at the bigger picture that Tate was trying to paint. He argued that the UK's current issues with riots and violence aren't just about misinformation or racism, they're about something much deeper. According to Tate, the real problem is the way mass immigration has changed British society and how the political class has failed to address the challenges that come with it. Tate's views echo those of other commentators like Douglas Murray, who has written extensively about the effects of immigration on Europe. In his book The Strange Death of Europe, Murray argues that uncontrolled immigration and a lack of integration efforts have led to social fragmentation and increased crime rates. This isn't just about numbers, it's about how these changes have strained public resources, put pressure on housing and healthcare, and created a sense of cultural dislocation for many people. For Tate, the riots are a direct result of these issues. He believes that many British citizens feel like their country is changing too fast, and that their communities are being overwhelmed by newcomers who don't share their values or their way of life. And he argues that the political class has ignored these concerns, pushing for open borders and multiculturalism without considering the real-world consequences. This is a powerful argument, and it's one that resonates with a lot of people, but it's also an argument that can easily slip into dangerous territory: the role of social media. Another key issue that came up in the interview was the role of social media in spreading misinformation and inciting violence. Tate's original post about the Southport murders went viral, reaching millions of people within hours. And once that false information was out there, it was almost impossible to contain. This is a problem we've seen time and time again, not just in the UK but all over the world. Social media platforms like Twitter and Facebook have become powerful tools for spreading information and misinformation. They allow anyone with a smartphone to share their thoughts, opinions and, unfortunately, lies with the world. And when those lies are about something as sensitive as race, immigration or violence, the consequences can be devastating. Morgan tried to hold Tate accountable for the role he played in spreading this misinformation, but Tate refused to take responsibility. He argued that he was simply sharing his thoughts and that it was up to his followers to make up their own minds. This is a common defense we see from influencers and public figures who spread false information online. They argue that they're just expressing their opinions, not inciting violence. But the truth is, when you have a platform as large as Tate's, your words carry weight, and when you use that platform to spread lies, you have to take responsibility for the consequences. This is a broader issue that goes beyond just Tate and Morgan. It's about finding a balance between free speech and accountability, between allowing people to express their views and protecting society from the dangers of false information. What does it all mean? So, what do we make of all this? The interview between Morgan and Tate was toxic, fruitless, and, in many ways, exactly what you'd expect when these two figures collide. It was a clash of egos, a battle of wills with neither side willing to back down or admit fault. And in the end, nothing was resolved. But maybe that's the point. Maybe this interview wasn't about finding solutions or reaching a consensus. Maybe it was about putting the issues out there, letting them clash and collide in a public forum, and seeing what comes out the other side. It wasn't pretty, and it wasn't productive, but it was real. It was a reflection of the divisions and tensions that are tearing at the fabric of society right now. In a way, this interview is a microcosm of the larger issues facing the UK and the world. It's about how we deal with change, how we address the fears and frustrations that come with it, and how we navigate the complexities of a society that's more connected and more divided than ever before. It's about recognizing that there are no easy answers, no simple solutions, and that sometimes the best we can do is have the conversation, even if it doesn't lead to the resolution we're hoping for. So, what do you think? Did Tate make any valid points, or was Morgan right to call him out? Do you think the riots are a symptom of a deeper issue, or are they just the result of misinformation and hate?